Welcome to Libertarian Atheist Skypecast. Today is Thursday, March 16th, 2017. Today we have John, Betsy, Jeremy, and Heather. So everybody, welcome.
Good evening.
Hello.
All right, so we're going to pick up where we've been left off on the video that we've been watching the last 3 times, I believe. And we probably got this one and maybe one more to go before we get finished through it. So,
well, the video is an hour and 33 minutes. We're at 45 minutes exactly on the video. There's a Q&A session at the end, and I think, depending upon group consensus, that could be optional to cover that part.
Yeah, we definitely don't have to do the Q&A. So, but we can.
I thought it was interesting. I thought there was some good stuff that came up.
Okay,
so
well, yeah, we can definitely go through it then. Yeah,
I can't remember it because it's been a while, but I thought it was kind of interesting.
Okay.
Some Q&As are just total garbage, and some are awesome.
Right. Some of them, right.
Oh, and I see that Curran has joined us. Welcome, Curran. We've already started.
Hello.
I've been trying to get my fire started. Got wet wood.
Uh-oh.
So I don't have backyard reactor yet. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll just listen and catch what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Q&A sections, they can be like a comment section on a website, you know. Sometimes there's some stimulating discussion, and then other times there's, you know, shit posting.
Right.
Yep, for sure. So.
All right, so we'll pick up at the 45-minute mark for the new campus SOP police, which features, of course, Dave Rubin, Christina Hoff Summers, and Peter Boghossian. And here we go.
I think it's important to couple that with the fact that I share those impulses. I want a society that's fair to women. I have a daughter. I want equity. I want people to be equal. I see my jiu-jitsu partners over here. Hey guys, it is race, religion, this stuff doesn't, size matters, but we really need to stop identifying people on the basis of those differences. And we really need to take a step back. We all need to calm down and chill out a little bit. And we need to take an honest and sincere look at what ideas are worth having, and if it's a bad idea, it should be eviscerated. It should absolutely, positively be subject to ruthless attack. Not a person, an idea.
All right, so just to stick with the applause breaks, problem people have with that is separating their individual, their self from the idea. The way people identify with ideas can have a real deep connection. So.
Sorry.
Well, I just took myself off mute real quick so I could say something. I'm chopping up poor animals.
Stop it.
Well, they're already dead, so, might as well use every part. God damn it, now I forgot what this
You did it on purpose.
Well, okay, now I remember. I was just going to say, the one thing I would add to that is it depends on who you're trying to reach. If you're trying to reach the person who holds that opinion, then eviscerating those ideas is about the worst thing you can do. Yep. If you're trying to reach the audience that he's speaking to, then by all means eviscerate the idea. But I can't think of anything that's going to shut down somebody faster than you just going full force at them.
That's a good distinction to make for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep, very true.
Okay.
Do you guys fear, in a way, that maybe we've lost the left on this? That's the title of one of the videos that I did this week.
And is that coming through loud and clear, by the way? I feel like it's kind of quiet. Oh, it is?
It's
Good.
no longer liberal in the classical sense of what liberalism is, basing things on logic and reason and individuality and all that. That has so little to do with the modern left, the guys that I've been trying to bring some reason to. It's not fun to say maybe I lost this battle, but I do sense that something has shifted here. Do you guys? And that only strengthens my resolve to continue, but it's sort of depressing in a certain way. Do you
It's
think
depressing to me. I grew up in Southern California. I was a leftist. We had the comedians, on our side, the irreverent comedians, and the ACLU and freedom, and it was all about radical freedom. And even my feminism was radical freedom of women. And then to find it gradually morphing into authoritarianism. And when it was about humor and it was about dissidence, and then suddenly it's become the exact opposite. I don't recognize the left today. And it's in my DNA. My parents are socialists, probably communists. My mother, I suspect, no, socialist, and very free, Southern California flower child. That's just what I am, and I don't I'm not at home with the right, although they're nicer to me sometimes. And but on the left, I see the face of fanaticism. And I see on campuses now, I'm seeing young women that are so carried away, and you mentioned a religion, it's almost, I don't like to overstate things, but I'm going to say this, it's almost as if it's a cult. That's with some of the young women, not all. It's not fair.
It's kind of connected to what she was saying there, but admittedly, I'm about to talk about is a bit of a tangent. Kind of had a bit of a contentious discussion with some in real life friends that I know personally that are leftists. I'm sorry that I have leftist friends, but
Well, we all do to some level.
yes.
I have a few. I have a few.
Right. So, but anyway, so it was a discussion about the intersection of race relations and economics, and I had made a comment on this Facebook post talking about the possibility that the left is actually creating more racists by dismissing entire demographic groups as racist. In this case, like Trump voters, like, oh, you voted for Trump, well, you were racist.
Mm-hmm.
And those people were like, well, maybe those people weren't racist to begin with, but then when you say racist is an insult, and I mean, I also made it clear, make no mistake that the word racist is an insult, even if it is completely true. That's not a nice thing to call a person.
That's right.
Even if they do have a white supremacist worldview, you're saying racist is a means to insult them. That's
Right.
I mean that's because of the
There's no good form of being a race. I mean, there's no misunderstanding of when someone calls you a racist.
Yeah, I mean, racism is a taboo. So yeah, saying that you are a racist.
Absolutely creating them.
Yeah. So, and they're saying, well, if those people become racist because we're telling them to pause and self-reflect on their ideas on race, and they were racist to begin with, and they're not worth our time. Like, well, okay, if you want to say, hey, Billy Bob or whatever, redneck name you want to use as an example, what you just said is racist, and I think you should maybe think about it. That's different.
That's
different from saying you are a racist.
Right.
I mean, once you say, hey, you're a racist, let's shut it down, and they're going to be like, well, fuck you. Maybe I do want to be a racist then, if it pisses you off that much. But,
I would say it's even, in a way, more indirect than that. Like, when the alt-right first started, I don't think the alt-right was what it is now. Right? Like, now they've had to divide it into the alt-right and the alt-light. Because it used to be that this was just like a different form of I wouldn't say conservatism, but it was a different form of the right wing.
Yeah.
But they got labeled as racist so much that legitimate racists flocked to it.
Yeah.
And then people who were formerly in there kind of went, oh, this is racist? But I don't feel like I'm, well, okay, but they keep calling me a racist, so I guess, fuck it, I'm a racist.
Yes, and that's what I was. So I mean, I brought up those points. I felt were kind of valid, and I mean, sure, we're confirming each other's biases in this discussion. But I mean, I don't think there's a really good argument against saying that calling someone a racist is pejorative, and saying that someone is doing something racist is informative. So, I think that's I mean that makes sense, but then, and it's just funny that the leftist jargon that comes as a response to that, whenever you enter a discussion with ideas that conflict basically their doctrine, and I get accused of concern trolling, and I've been accused of that before, and I never remember exactly what it means. I have to look it up every time, but I mean,
what is it? I've never heard of that.
Concern trolling is when you enter a discussion and you offer up a premise that appears to support, the consensus, but then you're using it for, ulterior motives or just to derail the discussion entirely.
Okay.
Oh, I love that. I call that finding out the base principle and then turning it on them.
Is that like a devil's advocate type of thing, or you're pretending like you agree and then?
Well, I mean, I don't think I was concern trolling. I'm like, okay, yeah. I agree with, right wing because they were talking about right wing populism. I agree that there's a connection between right wing populism and racist ideas. Like, here's my take on it, and they're like, well, stop concern trolling. In other words, stop saying that you agree with us, but for different reasons.
They just don't want any discussion that doesn't just agree with everything they say.
It's not enough to agree even. I mean, I agree, but not for the right reasons.
Oh my gosh.
And it's
that's insanity.
It is. That's just sheer lunacy.
Define racism.
Hey,
Adam.
Bingo.
I saw him come in.
I can't comment until I know what you guys are talking about.
I saw him come in, but I had to wait.
I've been listening. I've been wiretapping.
I knew you were NSA, Adam. I knew it.
Okay.
Well, the whole gang's here now.
Yeah.
So
Define racism.
Define racism.
Basically, what up until now has been the traditional definition of it. The racism is the idea that one race, usually the racist race, is the superior race, and all other races are inferior to that race.
Okay, so if somebody accuses you of being a racist, how do you respond?
I don't think that describes 98% of the people that get labeled as racist.
That's right, it doesn't.
Right.
No, but and I'm not even talking about the people who just said something that they disagree with, so they label them a racist. I mean, like, people that say something that ostensibly could be taken as racist. I don't think that's usually racism.
Mm-hmm.
It's culturalism.
Right. I would agree with you. I would wholeheartedly agree with you. Mm-hmm. So when somebody accuses you or anyone of being a racist, how do you guys respond to it?
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what time you slipped in quietly, Adam, but I mean, that wasn't exactly the point of contention that I had in this discussion. Was that, well, we think you're secretly a racist. At least, I mean, I haven't checked on the thread lately, so somebody might have said that by now, knowing this person and their friends. I'm sure there's some wacko dude that said that, but it was the concern trolling thing. And I mean, Adam, did you hear the part where I talked about concern trolling?
Yes, I heard that part where you define that, where it's basically someone who's spying on the conversation, pretends to agree with it, so they can use it for ill-gotten gains.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So, and basically, I mean, well, that was ridiculous. Even though that I arrived at basically a similar conclusion that the rest of the group in the discussion had, is because, my reasoning behind coming to the same conclusion was different from theirs. That was, it was what I was saying wasn't in good faith, and it was in an effort to derail the discussion. And
so, how'd you respond to that accusation?
So the way I responded was I, gave examples of what I meant. I mean, what my intentions were really, basically.
Right.
And
try to define that more thoroughly.
Try to define thoroughly. And and then just the same radical leftist talking points come about, and saying it's like, okay, and they're like, well, yeah, that's great and all that you don't like racism either, but you also need to pause and reflect upon yourself, and basically the tired check your privilege argument, and that's when I just checked out. So I just
blame you.
yeah, like yeah, I know.
So this is tangentially related, and you can tell me if I should bring, but
No,
my sister, who's gay, but great person. I don't mean that in like, oh, she's gay, but moving on.
That's
I love
okay.
gay
Our son's gay.
We love gay people.
No. What I meant by that was simply that she's not a raving liberal.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay.
But she did take issue with one thing though. She posted an article about lesbaroos. I don't know if you've ever heard this term.
No.
Okay, so
Sounds like a new kind of cookie.
In the early 2000s,
It's like a Girl Scout cookie.
in the early 2000s, Subaru was really struggling financially, and they were doing a bunch of research on who their customer base was, and they found out that Subaru sold very well among lesbian couples for whatever reason.
Yep.
So they began to deliberately insert not subliminal, but hidden messages that if you were in, you get it. If you weren't, you wouldn't. And they put those messages in, and it worked so well that over time, Subaru started to be referred to by lesbian women as lesbaroos.
What were the messages? Because I know that Subaru.
So, like the
popular.
license plate would have like secret little lesbian code on it or something. And
I'm gonna have to look back on that.
I'll find you the article and
yeah, I'd like to see it.
That's interesting.
So my sister posted this, and my immediate response was, and this was heartfelt. I wasn't trying to troll or anything. I just went, "That is so awesome. Do you see how the free market provides for minorities? There's an economic incentive to be there for minority groups."
Right.
It's a niche market.
And holy crap,
How
you would have
dare
thought
you.
that I had said Satan was Lord and we should all. I mean, I got slammed. So, and because it was my sister, I just like deleted my comment and backed off. If it had been anybody else, I would have been like, no, we're going to the mattresses over this.
She was offended by it too.
No,
Mostly.
But when everybody else started hammering in on it, she said, "Way to miss the point, Jonathan." And I was like,
I don't understand. What was her beef?
I honestly don't know. It was just supposed to be a cutesy, warm, feel-good story without any extra layer of thought involved,
Free market people, are
Yes,
they?
that's Jonathan is a misogynist and a homophobe because he supports capitalism over socialism.
That's right. That's what I was.
Yeah.
Right, and it was just, I mean, anybody else, and it would have been like, motherfucker, it's on. I'm sorry for running.
But about choosing your wrong battle. I mean,
Yeah.
they've just proven that they've assimilated and they're pissed off about it. I don't understand.
It just made me angry because if Coke does something, they go, oh, that's just, if some major corporation does something and they go, oh, they're just trying to take advantage of people and they're just branding themselves and it's all this cynical thing. But when it's something like this, which I agree is totally awesome, but it wasn't done simply because, hey, we need to help out these lesbians.
Right.
It was done, it was done for the bottom line. Now, they might not have had any issue whatsoever with the
They don't care who
further
buys the
implications
cars.
of that.
Yeah, they don't care.
And I thought it was touching, but I suppose that's all I was supposed to think is, oh, how touching, and then move on. So,
Subaru produces a very good automobile, one of the best. I don't understand what the problem is. I don't get it.
I wasn't supposed to read into it anything other than, okay, so, and this is a valid criticism of me, and maybe it applies to others as well, but I'm kind of like a one-trick pony. Like, I see the world entirely through, libertarian filters. So when I read a story like that, that's the first thing that pops into my mind, and I am of the minority in that regard. So when everybody else just kind of groans and goes, oh, great, he took a free market principle out of this cute story. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, I did. It's an awesome story.
But yet, if Subaru was marketing to heterosexual males, let's say,
The way Ford does with their trucks.
right, there'd be no
Right.
problem. Nobody would get up in arms about that. But if they market to lesbians, then all of a sudden there's something wrong with that.
Well, they weren't mad that they were marketing it. They were mad that John pointed out that
Right.
it was free.
Oh, yeah.
He implied that they weren't being all touchy-feely. Oh, this is so
Yeah,
neat.
I think that's it right there, Betsy. I think that they felt like I had taken the shine
You
off
burst
of
their
the
little
touchy
bubble.
feely.
Yeah, you were like, right. You were putting a.
Oh,
business.
that's their
Yeah.
hang up. That's
Right.
their hang up then.
They weren't upset at Subaru. They were upset at John for being
Oh, totally.
a free market capitalist. For God's sake.
And then
And
you know,
injecting it.
and,
Yeah,
then,
exactly.
and that's one of the most infuriating things about the left is that they kind of have their they have their pet demographics. You know, the left claims ownership to the LGBTQ community. They claim ownership to racial minorities. They claim ownership of Muslims. I mean, so if you don't, espouse leftist politics and then try to get too close to one of their, their pet demographics, they get very defensive.
In other
Well,
words,
look
you
how they
can't
treat-
win.
Right. Look how they treat Dave Rubin and Milo. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's almost kind of a it's almost kind of a the stereotypical overprotective dad and the teenage daughter. The lesbians are the teenage
Right.
daughter, and the left is the overbearing father. Like, don't you go
Yeah.
near my daughter, you dirty libertarian.
Well, I mean, anytime a woman agrees with them, they're a feminist. Anytime a woman disagrees with them, they've internalized their misogyny.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things of like creationists, like, well, why is it this way? Because God made it that way. There's no disproving that. There's no arguing with that.
Mm-hmm.
Once they do that, they are shutting the conversation down by excluding themselves from it.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave Rubin is.
And data doesn't matter. They don't want to see data. Just like creationists don't want to talk about geology or, they don't want to see the data.
Sure they do. They just want to talk about their select few topics
Mm-hmm.
that they feel butters their case.
Unfortunately, the non-left made the left what they are now. They've created the monster. Now it's
Right.
going to be especially difficult to kill it.
How do you mean that?
Oh, I mean that they just placated them. Everyone else just let the left get away with this.
It's true.
The college deans, the professors, even though they're part of the left, but even the ones that disagreed, even the ones that were anti-regressive left, just sang them a little lullaby and
But
let
I guess,
them have their way.
what do you mean by the non-left?
Well, I mean everybody else too. The right placated them.
Oh, okay.
They were afraid of them. In fact, to some degree, libertarians. But now the tables are starting to turn. So now people are expressing their disagreement with the left.
Well, I mean,
And I think Trump also had some help to call out the PC crowd.
well,
So I'll give him a little credit for that.
absolutely.
But don't you think that his inevitable demise will send all that resistance with him, though? I mean, he's going to go down, and it's going to go in flames.
Trump will fail for other reasons than trying to erase 30 years of political correctness.
Yeah, but these aren't nuanced individuals. They're just going to stack him and everything he ever believed, stood for, pushed through, proposed in one basket, and it all goes down.
I think just like religion is going to be destroyed from within, I think the left, the regressive left, is going to be destroyed from those who oppose the regressive left from inside the left.
Mm-hmm. Like the Sam Harrises and
the Peter Boghossians.
right,
Yeah.
who are challenging it, and they really are the only ones that have the power to do it.
Right, and they've also alienated some leftist college professors now that have been caught
That guy in
in
Canada,
their own game, right? And
Jordan.
now they're starting to make a determination as to whether they want to continue to be part of the left anymore.
Right.
They've seen the ugliness.
I guess what I wanted to say in retrospect, it's kind of hard to find that point where we let the left get away with too much, because at the, basically the overwhelming consensus is yes, you don't want people to be judged negatively and treated poorly because of whatever demographic group that they belong to, especially if it's a marginalized group. We want to give equal opportunity to people, to queer and gay folks, to Muslims, to black people, Latinos, Asians, whatever. I mean, women need to have equal opportunity to men. I mean, the general consensus, not just recently, but I think probably, for at least a century, really, has probably been basically, that. So but even in retrospect, it's hard to find the point where you cross over from that into just.
Well, when they start making the rules, and when they start determining that everyone else should abide by the rules except for when we want to change them to benefit us.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I think that's probably why, like you said, we let the left go unchecked, and it's because it was hard, because that line is fuzzy. I don't know.
Well, bad behavior unpunished results in more bad behavior, and we let these regressive leftists get away with bad behavior. We never called them out.
When did the bad behavior When did the bad behavior
start?
start?
Well, actually, the campus behavior is fairly recent.
Yeah, that's true.
They're saying that it's only the past 3 years or so.
Yeah, I was just going to say. The bad behavior clearly wasn't women's suffrage. It wasn't the end of Jim Crow.
No,
it wasn't.
No, of course not.
It wasn't. Giving, finally letting gay people have the rights that they deserve.
No, of course not. It wasn't the Berkeley free speech movement. It wasn't the Vietnam War protests.
Yeah. I would say what you just said. The last two things you just said directly tie into each other and answer your question. It just started happening the last 3 years, 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, on the campuses.
Yeah.
Occupy Wall Street started shortly after the collapse of the 07 or so.
So I think the reason is, and what the bad behavior started when they realized they had fairly well won the cultural war for gay marriage and things of that nature.
Okay.
Was it a done deal? Was it sealed up in the Supreme Court yet? No, it wasn't. But they realized the momentum was on their side. It was theirs to win. And at that point, the bad behavior really started in earnest when they decided that no longer is the government against us, so now we're going to make the government against them. Those who don't agree with us, they are going to be on the receiving end of the strong arm of the government now. That, for my 2 cents, is when the bad behavior took off.
Well, in that sense, then, if you are right, which you could be, then then history repeats itself, because when did the cities start to burn? After the Civil Rights Act was signed into law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just, I really feel that this is just, people start to get pissed off when, oh, you won't make me a cake. Okay, well, I'm going to put you out of business, and I'm going to take everything of value, and you're going to have to declare bankruptcy just to hold on to anything. That was...
Yeah.
That's a clear and direct message that we own this 800-pound gorilla now, and it's our turn to throw some punches.
Yep.
And we can't ignore that most of these kids are privileged, middle class, upper middle class.
And white. That's what's really ironic, is I mean, a privileged upper middle class white college student loves calling everyone in this discussion, a racist white person. And I mean, I kind of feel like the positions that they take are kind of smack of ironic racism.
They're just really mixed up.
Going back to like what I said about going back to what I said about like the pet demographics, it's okay.
They're ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's that condescending racism. It's they can't do it on their own. They need us.
Jonathan, R is in RK selection theory. Is that what you're talking about?
What's that now?
You weren't making a reference to RK selection theory, were you?
Maybe I was. I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, good. Because you said there are. I'm like, John's gone alt-right on us.
No. I don't know the term you just said. No, I'm just saying that it's this idea that we're white and we'll protect these poor downtrodden minorities because they're too
or the Islam
incompetent
Muslims
to help themselves.
They're doing it like for the Muslim people too,
Yeah. And I think
they're not all white in this. If you look at these audiences, though, it's a mix of a lot of different demographics.
I guess what I'm saying is their attitude towards marginalized groups is, I think it's ultimately it's insulting and patronizing towards those marginalized groups.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like, let me swoop in and protect you.
Yeah, you're not
White
capable.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's the soft bigotry of low expectation. That's same thing.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's why you need welfare because you're really not capable of rising up on your own merit. I mean, it's condescending. It really is. And they don't even recognize it.
Or if they do, they just simply don't care.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
So that term from Fight Club, that scene from Fight Club, where he's talking about, just before he gives the Snowflake speech, I think, actually. But he says something along the lines of, our generation has no great war. We have nothing that gives our lives meaning. And I kind of have to think that from an evolutionary standpoint, we've been designed to overcome struggles.
Yeah.
And
right.
And this generation has no defining struggle.
Yeah.
So they manufacture one, they create one to try and fill this void of there's no meaning to my life.
Mm-hmm.
And the sphere of legitimate causes grows ever smaller. It's not to say there's none, but it grows ever smaller, and consequently their mandate for meaning grows ever smaller. But they still have to attack it with the same ferociousness if it was like a Nazi in World War II.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It really is. Because culture, reading Steven Pinker, a lot of the horribly immoral things from the past, like slavery and horrible animal cruelty, those have come so far that, like you said, there isn't a huge fight left. There's parts of the world where obviously Muslim situation with women and stuff, but here in America,
but they don't see that on campus.
That's right. They don't. So you're right. They have to make something.
I think that's why on the left you see a real, just more than, not more than ever, but more than in recent history ever, I guess. The contempt for capitalism.
Yes.
And capitalism, especially crony capitalism, which is the norm throughout pretty much a majority of capitalist economies, does cause immense wealth inequality and problems. So
I would disagree that it's the norm. Well, are you saying that every corporation and business, the majority of all those are all enmeshed with the government? Most businesses are not.
Yeah, no. I would say they are, actually.
Really?
Well, a corporation by its...
you're talking of a certain size company?
Yeah, not small business. I don't see small business is hampered by government.
Oh, no, even small business.
Are you kidding me? I know.
No, I'm talking
Look at all the
about.
businesses that require licensing to get into.
That's what
Well,
I
that's
mean.
not their
Yeah.
fault.
Oh,
They're
it very much
hampered by
is their
government.
But that's not.
No, it
true.
is their fault because they crafted that to keep out competition.
Oh, well, yeah,
Well-
the big businesses did.
Depends on
Not
the
the mom
How
and
many-
pop.
How many big business salons are there?
It's true.
Salons, what do you mean?
Oh, you mean, you're
Okay,
talking
so
about
salon is a great
beautician
case of-
licenses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
occupational
you're talking
licensing.
about beautician licenses, yeah.
Well, any kind of occupational licensing. They're
Right.
everywhere. For
But
the
you know what? I
stupidest
just-
of things.
Yeah, no, they are ridiculous.
I don't see
but,
how that's cronyism.
And you know what?
What is the business getting in return for having to get a license?
Well,
Keeping competition out.
right, you would argue that.
Well,
And that's might have been true at the time, but I'll bet you if there was a move to get rid of these licensing laws for beauticians, I don't know that the central opposition would be other beauticians.
yeah.
I think they would be the general public worried about health and safety, and it would be government. But I don't think it would be other
Yeah.
beauticians.
Because they just keep cutting hair out of their basements,
Right.
out of their kitchens. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the point I was trying to make is basically every country that has a capitalist economy, which is pretty much, I mean, a vast majority of the world, because thanks to globalism, has cronyism. It's probably rife with cronyism, really.
But the left can't argue that there's a better
That's a good
system
point.
than capitalism. They might be able to argue that there are flaws in capitalism, but they can no longer argue for Marxism,
yeah.
communism, because that's failed. They can't turn to that.
They've been
That's a
trying.
perfect
They've been
point.
trying Marxism for 200 years, and socialism in general for probably another 300 to 400 years, and yeah, the results have not been good.
Right. That's a great point, Adam, because capitalism doesn't claim to be perfect. It doesn't.
Of course. Right,
And-
you're right. You're right. And
I
so
mean,
that all they can do is argue the weak points of capitalism, but they have no strong points of Marxism or communism.
Mhm.
And then when it doesn't work, it's like, well, it wasn't implemented correctly.
Exactly.
Of
We
course.
didn't have the right
Yeah.
centralized.
We didn't go by the
managers.
book.
Okay, and like I warned probably, I don't know, 20 minutes ago when we started this, that I was going to derail the whole discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to the video now.
Many of them are idealistic young women, and I was that way, and they're going through a process. But for some of them, they're so sure they're right, and they're so angry, and they just want to punch you. And this is not liberalism. This is not progressive. And the only word is, you call it, the regressive left. And you're sort of leading a movement through your program. You've brought so many people together that want to keep that alive, that spirit of the 60s, which was the beginning of, the free speech movement and free to be you and me, all of that. And now we have, we have safe spaces and trigger warnings and microaggression and validations and speech codes, and people now have apps where you can report people, not on this campus, but you can report somebody on campus if you heard a joke somewhere that you think might be micro-invalidating. This is crazy.
Look how fucking ridiculous that sounds. Micro-invalidating.
Micro-invalidating. And where is friendship? And the good thing is our campuses are more integrated, and more people are coming from all different backgrounds, and there's more diversity. And the key to overcoming racism and so is friendship. But if you're walking on eggs, you're so nervous that you're going to say the wrong thing. It's going to encourage tribalism, and people are going to want to stick to their own so they can relax. And the majority, and this was another thing that was pointed out in that paper on that microaggressions are harming people. It's not even clear that the majority of people who are supposedly micro-invalidated, that they are. They're not. They didn't do any survey to find if you use some of the words they said were microaggressive, like if you use the American dream, or you believe in in the United States it's a land of opportunity, it's a melting pot. You're not supposed to say that. That's a micro. Who is offended? And they can't find, anybody.
I want to piggyback on that real quick. So I'm going to ask you a question.
They're going to ask you questions.
Great. If the people in your movement suffer from a lack of kindness and compassion, it's probably not a good movement. Right?
That wasn't a question, Dr. B.
So, instead of me answering that question for you, just ask that question in the context of the left and the far right, too.
That's a statement, not a question.
It's true.
Don't think that's there. Okay, so we're going to open the floor to a Q&A session, which Danny from CFI is going to explain how it works.
That was okay. I wasn't expecting to end
I'm
that
going to
point.
travel.
So, and I admittedly derailed that a bit. So
That's okay. It was a good discussion.
So I mean, from what we can recall the discussion, and any, I mean, what's the takeaway? I guess that if anybody would like to add something.
You mean on what Boghossian just said?
What Boghossian just said, and actually in the discussion in general, if there's any points that you remember and would kind of want to bring back up again.
Well, just to comment on Boghossian, he wasn't asking a question, he was making a statement.
It's true.
There's no law that says people have to be kind and compassionate unless the government forces them to do so against their will. But, I didn't expect anything less out of Boghossian. So, I mean, he's gonna say something like that.
Right.
But if you examine what he said, you could see what could go haywire with a statement like that. Especially when kindness and compassion translates into, we're going to take what's in your wallet.
Yeah.
And that's a kind and compassionate thing to do.
Right. Yeah.
Which then Teller has the best refutal for that one.
I'm sorry, who was that? That was very distorted. What was that again?
Who is that?
I think that was
It's
John.
John, you
John?
sound like Darth Vader.
You got to cut down on those cigarettes, buddy.
Okay.
I was just going to say, Penn Jillette has the best review for that I've ever heard, because it comes
Yeah,
from
something
such
about
I
Penn
can't
Jillette.
understand it.
I think his bandwidth has dropped out.
Oh,
I'm going to log off and come back on.
okay.
All right.
That was interesting.
Sounded kind of cool.
They call quit smoking.
He sounded like Uncle Ned on
Yes,
South
yeah,
Park.
those laryngectomies.
Yeah,
Oh, geez.
South Park, Uncle Ned.
Yep. Okay, I remember him. That was.
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay.
Are you back?
I was just gonna say, I think Penn Jillette has the best rebuttal for that I've ever heard.
Okay.
Simply because what he says comes from such a clearly and obviously place of deep caring and concern about his fellow man. But then he just says, you don't get to claim that badge of concern if you use other people's money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
you're right. Or the definition of libertarian love, I want for you what you want for yourself. So that's the way I show you kindness and compassion, by permitting you to have, or by wanting for you to have what you want for yourself.
Right. That's good. That's a good one.
Right. So, and that's kind of making me think of another topic. So, in terms of objectivism, Ayn Rand and objectivists in general view altruism to be very negative. Now, obviously, altruism, when made compulsory by the state, that's very clearly negative. Now, but I guess the question remains then: is there a point where voluntary altruism is also, something to be held in contempt? I guess
It could be, and Ayn Rand went into detail about this. if you sacrifice your, let's say, for example, immediate family members, if you sacrifice your own children, your spouse, other members of your family, mother, father, siblings, for an outsider, for a stranger, then even voluntary charity can be a dangerous thing.
Sure. And it's just kind of going off on another tangent here. So last week Joe Rogan had Will McCaskill as a guest on his show. Is anyone familiar with this guy?
Is that the guy who gives 70% of his salary away?
Yes.
Okay, I've heard him. Yeah.
Yes.
And I kind of want to call bullshit on that, because in the interview with Joe Rogan, he said that I can't remember what the amount he said in British pounds it was that he allocates for his living expenses and to pay his bills and spending money, but he said it works out to about $32,000 a year.
I think Sam Harris interviewed him on.
He did, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it's 50%.
I heard him.
Is
Yeah,
it 50% what he gives away, or?
Yeah,
I think
more like
it's
70 actually. It's more like 70.
Oh, is it 70?
It's I think.
Yeah,
we
I
said,
know who you're talking about.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to call bullshit on that, because in the interview with Joe Rogan, McCaskill said that he basically splits his time evenly between Scotland, where he lives, and then San Francisco. And anybody who knows anything, I'm like, you're not doing that on $32,000 a year. No, you're not.
Yeah, right.
You're not.
Well, so he
what
claimed that
company-
he lived on $30,000 a year. Interesting.
What company gives him the ability to do that? To give away 70% of his salary and do what he, and live. You know what I mean? So without capitalism, he couldn't make a decision to be, to be an altruist.
Right.
Yeah. He's employed by Oxford University. He's an instructor there. I guess.
Is he flying between the two cities on his own dime, or on theirs?
I mean, I don't know what kind of stipend
They
and what kind of
probably
benefits
didn't
they're going to
disclose that.
Yeah.
What kind of stipend is he getting from the university to cover all these expenses that are not factored in, or that money he says is the £32,000? That may just be spending change and stuff. I'm suspicious of the whole bit.
Yeah, he might just be. Oh, okay. After I pay my bills, whatever amount is left, I only keep $32,000 and give the rest away. But I mean, I don't know. I wonder if Oxford really pays that high of a salary to their professors. I don't know.
Well, also, Britain takes quite a bit in taxes.
Yeah.
So who knows if that's pre-tax or post-tax? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
You couldn't rent a closet in San Francisco for half a year for that much money.
No. And I mean, I think, to be fair, I think he said the Bay Area, but still, I mean, you'd have to get pretty far out of. I mean, you'd probably have to find some of the worst slums in Oakland to afford that, and it would still be tight.
It's right.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
was
sounds
laughing.
kosher.
Sorry, I was laughing earlier talking about a closet in San Francisco. So the two correlate.
Yeah, I thought they got rid of all their closets.
Talking about a closet in San Francisco. An area was out before any other place in the U.S. And then you talk about a closet. We got.
Well, it's because all the closets are empty now. All the closets are empty. There's nobody hiding in them anymore over there.
That's
So.
right.
The other thing that struck me about the interview that he did with Sam Harris is that, so all of this money went to pay for nets, mosquito
I
nets,
think that's right.
right, for malaria.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and each net cost, I don't know, what was it, $10 or $15 or something?
Right.
So thinking to myself, okay, here's one guy, all right, and he donates however many thousands of dollars a year for mosquito nets. But look how much one corporation gives in charity every year, like a typical big corporation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd be better off working for a corporation and heading their charity division or their,
foundation.
Right? Their foundation department.
You're right.
When it comes to, I guess I'm presuming this is probably, well, not just Africa, but I mean I would assume in Africa where there's still a lot of problems with malaria. They just made me think of the singer, and he's kind of a one-hit wonder. He's not really popular. Hasn't been popular for the last several years. Akon. So, I mean that's a good example of private charity. Akon basically single-handedly through his foundation is providing electricity for 15 countries in Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
I mean,
For the whole country?
I'm sorry, what was that?
For the whole country? I mean, how's that?
I don't think
That's a lot.
I don't think he's running the entire infrastructure of these countries. But
Right.
I mean,
Interesting.
definitely improve the infrastructure of these 15 countries. And all through a foundation that he started. I mean, he had some huge hits probably about 10 years ago. So made millions of dollars.
So, okay, so you have a case of individuals who individually put money towards their individual desired charities. You have cases like sticking with the theme of like Save the Children Fund or something along those lines, who do get their books audited, at least occasionally, right? I mean, they have people that they're answerable to, and they have to show that they're spending the money wisely. Then you've got something like the United Nations Fund or whatever, the Children's Fund and all that. Does anybody know how that money gets spent?
Not really. And I mean, that's actually...
Do they put out financials on a yearly basis that say how they spend
I mean, I believe they do, it's some cursory level. But I mean, that was the interview with McCaskill and Joe on the Joe Rogan podcast. That was actually one good thing that I thought he was doing, because another big project of his is keeping charities accountable. He spent a lot of time really ripping on Make-A-Wish Foundation, and just the vast majority of their funds are for promotion and advertising.
And that's one of the reasons he chose the mosquito nets, because it was a very reputable manufacturer that makes the nets, and they were assured that the nets were getting to the people who needed them.
And then they're being used for fishing. No, I'm serious. No, I'm not joking. It's serious. These people do not use the net.
So they got mosquito nets and then they used them for fishing.
Right, they use them for fishing because it's one of the. It's like the Tom Shoes thing.
Yeah, but they're using mosquitoes for bait, so it all works out.
Wait for the net to fill up and throw in the water.
It's a matter of, even if you find a guy who's doing the right thing with the, I mean, he doesn't really. I don't know. It's just like, is that what they really need?
Go for what you right.
I mean, if mosquitoes are your concern, then start pushing for DDT to get back in.
And as far as I know, there's only one place on Earth where malaria is still a problem. Right? There's still one place in Africa, a part of Africa, where it's a problem. Everywhere else it's been contained.
Right.
Is that true?
I don't know.
So.
I thought it was pretty much the whole continent that was still a cesspit of malaria.
Getting to the point of the donations, people in the first world making assumptions about what is needed on the ground, and then that's getting used as an alternative. Maybe it's best to find out what's locally needed first, what the priorities are as a charity, instead of going in, oh, we need this.
Right.
Yes, yeah, controlling malaria is a great thing, but maybe starvation is a little more present on hand if people need resources that way. So I think it depends.
Did you see that Bill Gates wants to make mosquito shooting lasers?
Interesting.
I'm not joking. I'm like, this is his solution, right? Like, I mean, and he's not a stupid guy, right? So he wants to build these little remote thing that you put in the house, and if
Don't
it
they
sees
have those already?
mosquitoes,
Those little zappers?
yeah. Well, no, it's not a bug zapper. It shoots a little laser. Like, I mean, it probably couldn't even singe a single hair on your arm, but it fries their wings. It listens for their high-pitched flying sound, and then it shoots at that, and it burns their wings off. And I want to say, like, that's an amazing technological advance, but it's kind of like Bill Gates's, like, when all you have is a hammer, every problem is a nail.
Right.
So if you're a tech guy, then everything has a tech solution, right?
There's another interesting development.
Sharks.
There's valid techniques out there now that can genetically modify mosquitoes to not transmit malaria. And to him talking about doing something that, why isn't he concentrating on what's obvious? Focusing money on a technique that would solve the malaria problem once and for all. To make the
because that's
not a vector
not in the left's wheelhouse. Genetic modification is not in the left's wheelhouse. It's still the boogeyman to them.
There's good and there's bad with genetic modification. It just depends on how the technology is put forward. If you put a gene that produces some toxin in a plant, and you eat that, well, that might cause problems. That I have an issue with. Other ones where there's so it depends. Like any technology, depends how it's used. But Bill Gates is sometimes a little out there, like his robot tax idea. Great idea.
But... charging the robots taxes, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You have to pay them a wage first, I guess. I mean, you kind of mentioned though. I mean, that's a curious thing about the left because there's, a big part of the left is, a lot of leftists are really into science and skepticism and things like that, and then of course the left also, under their tent, they want to welcome in, fundamentalist Muslims, and they want to welcome in New Age religions, so it's just kind of...
And I would even say that the anti-vax thing, that's a pretty even split.
There's a lot of anti-vaxxers on the right, for sure.
No, but I'm saying that there's a lot on the left, too.
Yeah. I thought that's what you meant by the even split. I mean, I thought it's pretty evenly split between both sides of the spectrum. But, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Lots of anti-vaxxers. I mean,
Don't worry, because Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to get to the bottom of it. I just sent a link from the World Health Organization data on malaria. 60% estimated decrease in global malaria deaths between 2000 and 2015. The burden was heaviest in the World Health Organization African region, where an estimated 90% of all malaria deaths occurred, and in children age under 5, who accounted for more than 2/3 of all the deaths.
Wow.
So as we start eliminating diseases and basically infant mortality rates become lower and lower, that's probably the environmental disaster that I don't know if enough people are focusing on. And of course, there's always going to be someone that's going to pop up and says, "Wait, no, there's overpopulation isn't possible. You can fit the entire Earth's population in the state of Texas. It'd be fine. We have more than enough room. I mean, yeah, everybody would be shoulder to shoulder, but still, I mean."
I think economic incentives would kick in at a certain point, and
birth rates will drop, of course.
Look on the bright side. We'll probably have a nuclear disaster before that ever happens, so that'll take care of that.
I mean,
I'm all cheered up now.
Yeah. All right. Nuclear holocaust.
Well, I'm going to go commit suicide. Thank you very much.
World population solved, one at a time.
There you go. Well, I mean, okay, so birth rates are going to drop, obviously, as prosperity increases. But along with that, longer lifespans, and then we
Then we cure cancer.
But the cost of maintenance for people living these longer lives.
Right.
As a rule, once people get into probably their 60s and older, the cost of their health care is starts to skyrocket year after year, comparatively.
What we need is genetically modified people.
Yes, we do. Well, I mean, look at Japan, right? Japan has a decreasing birth rate. I mean, like, they sell more adult diapers than they do baby diapers. That's an actual fact.
Wow.
They sell more. That's not a joke.
Wow.
Boy, and you call my scenario depressing.
I mean, but that's the reality. Now, part of that is that they had their baby boomer generation too. But I mean, how many adults do you expect to be incontinent? So I really think that as cities become more, I could be totally wrong. This is just me pulling out of my ass, but I think as cities become more dense, and as wages and standards of living rise, that you start to put yourself a little bit more into the picture and less. So I don't think. The only reason the population is rising as a whole in the West, or at least in America, is because of immigration.
It's true.
Right.
True.
You take immigration out of the picture, and all across the West, Europe, America, every population is in decline.
Right.
It's not stabilized; it's declining. It's just masked by immigration.
So, and that's I think that's part of the reason I think we're especially, and this is a popular idea on the right and the alt-right, is we need to either contain or eliminate the non-Western societies. We either need to contain them there and keep them out of the West because we're not replacing ourselves quickly enough, or we just need to drop a bunch of fucking bombs on them and thin out the herd.
Well, see, the right actually is not interested in stopping immigration because, they need the whole Ponzi scheme to stay in effect.
Yeah.
So they can't. I mean, as much as they publicly proclaim against it, they're not stupid. They want A, the cheap labor, but B, they need that Ponzi scheme to still keep moving. And it's already struggling as is, so they're not going to let that collapse.
Yeah, I think it's probably more of an idea that you see in the alt-right is that it's either contain or attack the rest of the world that's not part of the West. It's a real it's an existential threat in those circles. And I mean, I mean, I think there's good arguments for their position. Not that I agree with their position, but I'm not saying their arguments are garbage. I mean, especially basically refugees being a crisis level thing in Europe.
Okay, but you're saying, when you say existential threat, it's not an existential threat in the sense of me personally, I'm going to be called. Right, it's an existential threat in the sense of my culture.
Yes, exactly.
And I'm sorry, but again, you don't own it. Nobody owns it. And the good stuff will go on, and not all of it. Maybe some good stuff will get lost, but the good stuff will largely go on, and we'll incorporate some of their good stuff and maybe a few of their bad stuff. But that's what culture is. It's never stagnant.
But
it's
what about
always changing.
But what about all the blonde hair and blue eyes, John? I'm just kidding.
But you know what I mean, though. It's like,
yeah.
When you say it's an existential, and I don't mean you personally. When somebody says this is an existential threat, white genocide, blah blah blah, you don't own culture. You don't get to say this is the culture that you must adopt. None other, yada yada yada. It's fine to say that these are the ground rules that you have to adopt, libertarian-wise.
Well, it's tribalism. I mean, if the Muslims come over here, they want us to bow to their culture. I mean, they're doing it too. They don't want to change either. So I call it just simple tribalism. I mean, the Neanderthals had it probably. I think it's an innate feeling to protect your own tribe.
Right.
I don't think you can blame people for feeling that way or think that they're stupid or immoral. I think it's innate. That
Somebody's been reading Pinker.
Yes, I have. I read it this morning. There's no environmental influences in anything. I've come to that conclusion from reading him.
I guess I look at the world maybe too detached, but it works for me. And I look at it and I just see information evolving. And
I think you're right. I mean, I can see what you're saying, and from a higher perspective. But if you do it from your gut, that's a difference. You're looking at it as a macro view.
Right. If you look at it from a macro view, then it's just information systems, aka us, evolving, and we are information processing organisms.
Carbon. Didn't you say something about carbon? We like blobs of carbon.
I'm above that.
I got that. A lot of people don't. My brother uses that term all the time. Like, we're just carbon movers, we just.
Yeah, but that's all this is. I mean, we're talking about the evolution of, we're talking about memes, right?
Yep.
Dawkins' cultural unit.
Yep.
This is an evolution like any other. It's just an informational evolution, and I don't think that it does any good to stomp your feet and say no. I mean, I don't know, it might work, but it's like the dinosaurs saying, "God damn it, mammals, you will not cross this line." It's going to happen, buddy.
Yeah, and I think that's probably part of the. I guess we'll just attribute it to the alt-right. Part of their concern about wanting to either contain or attack cultures outside of the West is it's based loosely upon historical precedent, but it's their belief that ideas like freedom and liberty and intellectualism are a Western phenomenon, and they don't occur. There's a lot of arguments against that,
but you can't defend that by denying it.
Okay, elaborate, I guess.
You can't say, to protect freedom, we need to deny freedom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. So,
it's such a valuable thing that we need to protect it by stopping other people from getting it.
And I don't even think that's an accurate argument to say, oh, only Westerners appreciate liberty and understand what liberty is. I think you can find examples for cultures that value liberty throughout history, throughout the world. Certain Native American cultures, for sure, were probably libertarian, if not anarchist in nature.
People around the world certainly know what it means to be oppressed.
Yeah, certainly. So, the assertion that only Westerners understand and appreciate liberty, so we have to preserve it for ourselves and keep everyone else away because we're the torchbearers of liberty. I think that's ridiculous.
I agree with you.
But it's something it's something that seems to be catching on in libertarian circles when you get into these really deep discussions with the more right-leaning libertarians. It's more of an accepted idea.
But do you think it's because some of the countries that people want to come here from are so authoritarian that people are concerned that if that culture is imported here, then we'll have either a theocracy happen and it'll become really dictatorial? I mean, I think there's some valid concern.
That's exactly the concern.
We don't know what those cultures, how they will infiltrate or will mesh with ours. And I mean, Sharia law, if that could be, it exists in some countries. So to say that it couldn't ever happen here, I think is not realistic.
Well, that's exactly the concern.
That's why people are worried about it, because they look at what is going on in the countries from which those people are fleeing. And they don't look at them. A lot of them, they want freedom. Those people, you know what I mean? But it's just we don't understand them well enough, I guess.
But I guess if your concern is that they don't respect the culture of freedom, then the solution to me is not to focus on them. It is to focus on the institution of state that and it would enable them to enact those desires, right? Like, so, I mean, do you, and again, I'm not talking to anybody in this group, but do you have faith in a libertarian principle of letting ideas duke it out, or don't you? Because if you have faith in that process, then the solution is to try and get the state out of making rules that go beyond negative rights, and then let the best ideas duke it out.
But bad ideas have become established because more people believe them than not. So you could let it all duke it out, and then Nazism could rise. I mean, that's just an example, or just some horrible idea could be the one.
Nazism needed the state, though.
Right, that was a bad example. I caught myself on that. But
communism needed the state. Nazism needed the state. Fascism needed the in order for bad ideas to get that big, you need the state.
Yeah.
Going back to
it's the archipelago, right? Like I didn't say anything until because they wouldn't come for me, and then eventually they came for me, right? Like if there's no state, nobody's coming for you.
Think about that some more. Yeah.
Hey, go ahead, Kern.
I have a question in regards to immigration crisis in Europe. How come it's a crisis? And if we had the same influx of people coming in from Syria, other places, I don't think we consider it a crisis. It's only a crisis because they don't allow people to actually set up and live. They don't try integrating them into the society.
They don't have to integrate. They get paid to just sit there.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a crisis because of the welfare state, isn't it?
That's why it's a crisis, because people coming in and they're not wanting to stay in places where they're not getting the welfare. They want to go to places where they're getting benefits. Whereas if we had the same influx, it would be a crisis because here's more people that can work and do other things. They have certain skill sets. Let's put them to work. So the American solution, not that I'm saying America's got all the solutions, but it's a better solution compared to how it's being handled in Europe. Because there, it is a crisis. You got a bunch of people there's one couple that were in Germany and couldn't work for 9 months because of some visa requirement, something to get residency. Why aren't they working right away? I don't get it. Why aren't they putting these people to work, bring them into the community, and so they start interacting instead of treating it where you're an outsider and not part of the community.
Yeah, they're having I know Europe's just an immigrant crisis in general. I've been kind of paying attention to it a lot lately, and I know like in Bulgaria they have like former military or like self-patrolling the borders and shooting anybody who tries to come in.
Yeah.
And like, they're starting, in Denmark they just had that landmark, kind of election, because they had an anti-immigrant person running against, and he had a lot of backup there for a while, and yeah, it's starting to be quite the ordeal over there. And like they show a lot of videos over there that are kind of nationalistic, and they show like all these immigrants coming in and all like men, and like, well, where's the women? Where's the children? Why are you just sending your men in? And so I mean, it's been quite the it's different for them. It's just different seeing the immigrant crisis from their perspective, I guess.
There's another libertarian argument against it's against open borders specifically, and it is that you can't have open borders with a welfare state. I think, honestly, if you have a welfare state and open your borders, like truly open your borders, you're going to basically cause the welfare state to collapse on itself. So, in a way, it would be catastrophic, but in its own way, if you open your borders with your welfare state in place, you're going to destroy it from it becoming over-bloated and overgrown. It'll become top-heavy.
Yeah, but it'll destroy your country.
So Machiavellian strategy.
Or will they just end up taking 90% of all of our money to keep it afloat?
I mean, look at what France does for taxing.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work. Because when are they going to pull
That's the argument that I'm very sympathetic with, is kill the welfare state, not close the borders.
Right.
But are we talking about illegal immigration or legal immigration?
To me, it's a moot point. I know what you mean, but to me, there's no such thing as illegal. I mean, yes, in America, there's illegal immigration. However, ethically, libertarian-wise, I don't recognize illegal immigration.
I guess what I'm saying
land
is,
theft.
I guess what I'm saying is, who has access to the welfare state?
It depends on the country, really.
Illegal do.
Well, what do the illegals get? How do they get Social Security? How do they get
There's a lot
housing,
of
food stamps?
there's a lot of fraud,
Okay, so it's fraud. Okay.
and the school systems are a big part of what is going to collapse. If you have open immigration, and the people that are property owners that are paying for the schools are subsidizing, tons and tons of kids that, you have to build bigger schools. You have to, we're going through that in my town, not from illegal immigration, just from growth. Anyway, it's, that's one part of it, that it's not really considered welfare, but it is. Schools are free. Public schools are for, and health care. Going to the hospitals.
Right.
So.
It's tough.
But there are libertarian solutions to all this, of course.
That's right.
That's true.
Yeah.
We usually have a pretty good.
That's why I posted earlier this week about what's so bad about not having health care, and I didn't get the answer. I was hoping people would discuss the Republicans' health care plan and talking about the amount of people that are the uninsured. But part of that, I think, with the uninsured is the demographics of there are people who don't see it as necessity. So that's why I don't think it's such a bad thing, even though the Democrats are going through the roof in regards to it, that people are going to be uninsured.
Mm-hmm.
But people make the choice because I'm healthy, I'm in my 20s, I'm not talking about myself, of course. And why should I have to pay for something that's going to cost me when I can use the money for something else, like my student loan debt?
Yeah.
So they'll run the economics personally for themselves. So I think it all depends, though, with healthcare in regards to that. But we don't have a free market in healthcare either. It's such a Soviet system currently in place. The whole thing.
Well, it's a fascist. Yeah. Obamacare is a fascist system, and the Medicare is socialist.
Mm-hmm.
But I was listening to a libertarian economist who said, everybody's talking about Obamacare, and they're missing the 5,000-pound elephant in the room, which is Medicare.
Yeah.
Because Obamacare is chump change compared to what's happening with the Medicare system.
If you look at the pie chart for the national budget, yeah.
Adam, you are one of the few people I trust to know what actual fascism is.
Who's that?
Oh, I'm just saying.
Me or Donald Trump?
No, I said
What
Adam.
did he say?
Everybody says fascist, and then it's like define fascism. And
Right.
No, it's fascist. It's fascist Obamacare.
I know. I'm saying I know that you know how to use the word.
Okay.
98% of the population says the word fascist, and they have no idea what fascism even is.
But you know what? I'll cut him a little slack because the word fascist, it's such a great word.
Yeah.
Like the
Just
old
feels
quote.
good to say it, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like the old quote, everyone loves a fascist, or every woman loves a fascist or whatever, and Mussolini and it's just it's a great word. It's just like one of those
Latin machismo.
Yeah, wonderful, yeah. It's like that. Yeah.
Karen, I'm glad you brought up the healthcare debate, and I guess what we're going to start calling Trump care if that ever goes through. I think for our next discussion, we should, at least for part of it, focus on that, since that's kind of the hot
good
topic.
idea. Have to brush up on exactly what it is.
Have to read it up on it, find out what's in the details.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and since we are getting close to our what are we at, Heather, for time? Probably about the hour and a half mark.
Yep. It's 8:25. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, then let's plan on. I think next week we should at least in part discuss the Trump replacement for Obamacare or the ACA, American Affordable Health Care Act.
That sounds good to me.
Any other
Okay.
suggestions from the group?
Are we going to finish the
Q&A.
Do we want to go over the Q&A? We can.
We'll do
Yeah.
that next week.
Okay.
How
Yeah.
about everybody watch the Q&A part and then write down any points of conversation?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
About it.
I agree.
I
That's a good
already got
idea.
them.
So, all right. Well,
Adam's always
let me
I already got them.
let me wrap up the recording here real quick, and then we can. All right. Well, that was another week of Libertarian Atheist Skypecast. Thanks for joining us.